Let me tell you about the time that I went from making six figures with my own business to being in the depths of financial ruin and bankruptcy and having to work the worst job of my life in the middle of winter just to stay afloat. My typical day looked something like this: starting a torch at 7:30 a.m. in minus 15 degrees Celsius weather and using the heat to cut down massive transformers, as well as working heavy labor when it was needed. I felt like a complete failure in life and barely had any motivation to continue on, but I maintained my faith that brighter days were ahead. There was a brief period of time where I almost called in sick because I barely had enough money for gas to get to work. Every so often, a piece of my coveralls would catch on fire and I would have to extinguish it. I had burns all over my hands and feet, as no matter how meticulous I was, the hot shrapnel always found a way underneath my fireproof gloves and work boots. As my season for business started to approach, I noticed there weren't any calls for work coming through, and because of a bad season, I wasn't sure if I'd recover and be able to leave this hellhole. I would think to myself every day, is this really what my life has become? Am I stuck here forever? I was miserable and depressed. I did my best to maintain a positive mindset, believing better days were ahead. No matter how bad this job sucked and how broke I was, I continued doing good work for the employer. Being productive, doing good work, and covering my basic necessities gave me enough positive reinforcement to keep pushing forward. Going from being my own boss and making good money to having a lot of bad things happen in my business and having to rebuild and start all over again and go work for somebody and doing such a difficult job for really low pay was a really difficult adjustment for me to make. The main purpose of this video is I want people to know that no matter how difficult things get, just keep pushing forward and keep working at things, and eventually the goal you have in your mind will manifest in reality, providing you're taking positive action and you're doing the right things along the way. This wasn't just me working this job thinking some miracle was gonna happen. I was really active in trying to get my business back up in order. So I was on the internet, I was promoting my business. Every little bit of extra time I had, I was using it to promote my business, doing stuff on social media. I was going to customers' houses. I was getting on the phone and calling people. I was doing everything I possibly could just to get that one job to get me started so I could get away from this job. This job was hell. I had burns. I'm surprised I don't have them anymore. I think I still have a few of them on my hand, but I still have a little bit of the burns on my hand, and I have a few burns on my feet. I don't think those will ever go away. I don't think they'll ever recover, but I had these burns on my hands and feet, and they were really bad for a long period of time. Plus, I was also breathing up a lot of toxic fumes there. A few of the guys that worked with us had some health problems. It was directly related to lung problems, and I know that they were smokers, but I smoke cigars, and the idea of working at this place my whole life scared the crap out of me. It was so motivating for me to get myself back on the horse to get my business back up and running. Some people may do a job like this and it might be okay for them, but I started a business to be my own boss, to have some more freedom, to make some more money. And I have the typical story of the business owner who failed a bunch of times and went bankrupt and had a bunch of issues and life fell apart. I think that's a big part of growing as a business owner. Even just a person in general, like if your life has fallen apart, a lot of really successful people have had their life fall apart. They've gone broke. I wanted to release this video now because I know it's January. I know a lot of people have been affected by the economy, and there's a lot of people who are really struggling financially because of all the stuff that has happened in the world, and the job market's not that great. Even me personally, it hasn't been as busy as it was in the past, but I'm maintaining a positive mindset. It was getting close to the beginning of the spring season, which is when we start getting busy, and it was like crickets on the phone lines. And then all of a sudden I got a call. I went to the call, and it was the type of work that I would normally turn down in the past because we were so busy and we had a certain size of a job that we would service, and anything below that usually we wouldn't touch because we just didn't have time for it. And at this point, I was going back to where I started with the repairs, and I went to a customer's house. They asked for this repair and I jumped at it. I was like, I'll do it. I'll come on the weekend. I'll work this crappy job during the week, and then I'll go and do this job on the weekend. So then I went over to the house and I started working at the house. It was a long weekend. So I worked 45 hours during the week at this job, getting lit on fire, cutting down these transformers, working heavy labor. And then I went straight to working my business on the weekend, trying to rebuild it. I felt really defeated because, like I said before, I had some bad business dealings in the year before. I had some health problems and I had some mental health problems as well. And these were really apparent to pretty much everybody on social media. It was really embarrassing and it was really hard to recover from because my reputation got affected a little bit. And I'm very big on how I'm perceived. I think it's really important to carry yourself with a certain type of integrity. And during this time, I couldn't carry myself the same way. I fell apart. It was really hard to recover from, and going and working such a crappy job. And like I said, like not even having enough money to pay for gas, that was so hard. I was working so hard for nothing. And I ended up going and working this repair job, and while I was working there, some of the neighbors walked by and I ended up talking to them, and then they asked me to go to their house, and I ended up quoting 3 or 4 jobs, and I ended up getting all of them. I ended up selling every single job. I had 1 month set up for my business and I was getting ready to quit this job. I was super excited to leave, and it was like the time was coming where things were getting better. And the reason why I made this video is I want people to know that sometimes it feels like you want to quit. And I've even learned this on YouTube. It feels like you want to quit, and just before you're about to quit, if you keep pushing a little bit further and you keep making the positive actions and thinking positively, you'll eventually succeed. You have to push forward. And I know a lot of people want to quit. It's easier to quit. It's easy to be negative. It's easy to succumb to negativity. But the main focus of this video is to persist through. It's just to keep pushing forward. This video is meant to be more of a motivational video. I wanted to show that everybody can lose all their money. Even if you're making a couple $100,000 one year, 200,000-300,000, you can lose all of that in a blink of an eye. You can lose your house, you can lose your car, you can lose your health. There's so many things that are not in our control. I learned a lot from this process. Number one, I learned that I don't like working for people. I never liked working for people to begin with, but during this process, I really didn't like working for these people. The owner was full of it. He would talk about how, oh, we don't make all kinds of money and blah, blah, blah. It's like, I knew the guy made lots of money. And the thing that I learned about this, especially as being a business owner, is I got a taste of what it's like to be an employee. And a lot of these employers, they don't take care of their employees, and it's just a rapid turnaround. I was working really hard, and I even offered him, like when I went to go start my business, I was like, listen, you're not paying me enough. I need to go back to my business, but if you like, I can do some part-time with you and go work my business. And I was even willing to do full-time with him during like maybe 2 or 3 days a week. I could do like longer hours, but he just didn't want to be flexible. He's like, it's not fair to my other guys. And I'm like, you don't even have other guys. It's a revolving door. And I think this is the problem with a lot of the workforce right now. These employers can't keep up with this inflation. And I think I'm speaking to a lot of people right now. Nobody really wants to go and work and give all their time to a company that doesn't even take care of them. And I think a lot of companies don't take care of their employees. This is why I like working for myself. I'm in control of it. I know a lot of people say it's not consistent. It can be consistent providing you put in the work. You just have to put in more work. I'd rather work more for less than go work for somebody else, because I feel like they dangle a carrot in front of you. And this is how I felt with this company. When I was there for 3 months, because I was only planning on being there for about 4 months. When I came off the 3 months of probationary period, they had me fill out some paperwork asking me what I wanted to make, what was the desired pay. And I wrote down a base pay that would make sense for that type of job, especially the amount of skill that was involved and the danger associated with it. The owner didn't even communicate anything that was on the paperwork. He just came up to me and he was like, we're gonna give you a $2 an hour raise. We live in Canada, so we get lots of taxes. That's like a difference of like 50 bucks on every 2 weeks of paycheck. What's the point of that? I don't even care about this raise. It means nothing to me. I'm still struggling every day. I'm not saving any money. Where's the motivation? So when I was leaving, I told him, I was like, you know, I gotta go. You're not paying me enough money. I have a business. I told him in the beginning too that I had a business. And for some reason, he didn't listen when I said I had a seasonal business. And this is another problem with a lot of employers. If you're an employer watching this, try to communicate to your employees. I don't understand. If someone's telling you something, why don't you listen to them? He didn't even listen to anything I said. He just had his own motive. If you communicate with your employee, you can see how they're motivated. This guy, if he knew anything about me, he could have talked to me about having a flexible schedule, and he would have had so much more productivity. I can't understand why you have to have this system where you basically have to have ownership over somebody's complete time. If you have a business that you're not being able to retain your employees successfully, some of that's on you. I get that the workforce is a little bit different now. People are weaker, people are mentally weaker. This is a problem with a lot of society now, but I also understand why a lot of people don't feel motivated to work anymore, because these employers don't pay enough and there's this massive inflation right now. So it's daunting. It's like, what am I even doing? Why am I even doing this? I'm working for someone else. They're making tons of money and I'm struggling here. And I know some of these small businesses aren't making tons of money, but I knew this company was making money. They're making all the money and they're hardly paying anything to their employees. So I ended up getting all of these jobs. And the beginning of this year working for this company, it was so difficult. I struggled so much with it. It was so depressing. I felt like such a failure. And then out of nowhere, I ended up selling all of these jobs and I ended up making a lot more money and being a lot happier. I was able to do so much with my time because I had more time and I was making more money because I was working for myself. And I ended up leaving this company and I ended up having the best year of my life. It was literally the best year of my life after this. I was able to save some money. I was able to come out of the bankruptcy and slowly rebuild my life. It's not perfect now, but it's a lot better than it was. And this was a time I really wanted to quit. I really wanted to quit. I was done with everything. I was done with this job. My life had fallen apart. It was really hard to pick myself back up and still have enthusiasm to move forward. And one of the biggest things that helped me in this process was going to the gym, going and working out, exercising. Anytime you're recovering from something, whether it's addiction, bankruptcy, getting divorced, all these different things that can happen in life, even a health problem if your health allows for it, going to the gym and getting yourself in shape, it makes your life so much better. It helps with recovery. It offsets the negativity in your life. It's like a natural antidepressant. And I think a lot of people that don't exercise don't understand this. If you're watching this and you don't exercise or you're thinking about exercising, go and do it if you can. If your health allows you to do it, it's really helped me get through some really difficult times in my life. It's helped me overcome things. When I go and do hard cardio, when I go and do intense exercise in the gym, it helps me overcome the stresses of life. Like I said before, you could be going through something right now and it could be really difficult. Keep pushing forward. I realize how frustrating it is to work for people, how having a boss is really frustrating, and I realize it's not for me. I've always had that businessman mindset where I want to work for myself. And I found every time when I was in my down season, when I felt like I needed to work for somebody, I found it really hard to take orders from someone and make less money. And I think nowadays there's going to be a lot more people trying to take their own finances into their own hands and go out there and try to do something for themselves. The workforce, they're just not keeping up with how much everything costs. Some of the wages I see them paying now, I'm just shocked that they're even paying that. Like, I don't know how people live off of what these employers are paying. And the employers don't seem to care. I got inspired to do this video because I've seen a bunch of people on YouTube talking about how it's so hard right now to have a job because they don't pay properly. Nobody takes care of you. It's like wage slavery. That's essentially what it is. There's like an awareness going on right now. And maybe this platform is helping show everybody what's really going on. Maybe some of these employers might start thinking a little bit differently. I have a business and I'm not perfect. I've made enough mistakes, but if I had a good employee that could produce and I could only have him 2 or 3 days a week while he had to go do something else, and I'd give the guy the freedom. I'd give the guy or the girl the freedom, like give them the freedom to do both jobs. Why not? But this guy, just stubborn old school mentality. He wants to have people full time. He wants them to be under his thumb all of the time, full control over their time. And I think we're getting to a point in society where people are starting to wake up a little bit. This whole like wage slavery mindset and some like business owns your time. I have a feeling that's gonna be done soon. And I think a lot of people are gonna be gauged based on their productivity. Because I don't really understand the whole mindset in this whole system where people will get paid per hour and they'll slack off for like 60% of that time. Wouldn't it be better to just motivate someone to be productive? Doesn't make sense to me. There's so many people slacking and bragging about it. I see people bragging about it. I've heard people bragging about how they get paid per hour and they do less work. It just doesn't make any sense to me. That's all I got for this video. Like I said before, if you feel like quitting, if you feel like a failure right now, you're 100% not a failure. If anybody has ever felt like a failure, it's me. And I'm gonna be sharing these kinds of stories on my channel because I know a lot of people take a lot of inspiration from hearing about somebody who's being vulnerable and who has gone through a lot of stuff. And like I said before, at this time, I was bankrupt. I had gone from making really good money to barely making anything. And it really sucked. Like, it was really, really hard. I was getting up in the morning. It was like minus 15-degree weather. Some days it was like minus 20. Some days it was a little bit warmer. But you go out there, your hands are frozen, your feet are frozen. You're working for people who really don't care about you. And when I have my business, my customers, they care about what we're doing. They appreciate the work you're doing. These guys, they kind of appreciated what we were doing, but not in the monetary sense. They tell you they appreciated what you're doing, but they don't take care of you financially. And when you're barely making enough to drive to work, you can't fill your gas tank in your truck to get to work, that's not motivating at all. And I felt like a complete failure. And this was in my late 30s. It's not like I was like 20. When I see someone who's 20 saying I feel like a failure, it's like, dude, you're not a failure. Nobody's a failure. If you're 50 years old and you feel like I felt, you're not a failure. You just gotta get up and keep going. It's literally like Rocky. You just gotta keep getting up and keep going forward. And I think that's why that movie is so popular and became so famous. It's a story of constant persistence. Like, just get up and keep going forward. And I think a lot of people, they quit, they give up, and they give up on their dreams, they give up on their goals. I don't think we should do that, no matter how hard it is. The beginning of the year, I was making peanuts, barely making enough to get gas to go to work. By the end of the year, I had some money saved up, I was out of my bankruptcy, and I was very happy. I felt very content with where I was at. I was moving forward. Yeah, I wanna do more. Yeah, I've been through a bunch of stuff. I'm 40 years old. And I'm more comfortable right now with the fact that life has fallen apart at one point than I would have been when I was younger. When I was younger, I had these like delusions of grandeur that I was gonna be rich when I was like 25. And I see a lot of these younger people, they think they're gonna be rich when they're 25 years old. That's a very small percentage of people. And I'm not saying it's not possible. I think you could 100% be rich by the time you're even 23. But it's about applying your time correctly and doing something that provides value and being able to scale it. And I believe in that. I'm not hating on that goal. I actually think it's possible, but you can't beat yourself up if you don't get that goal by that time frame. Sometimes it takes longer. I've fallen apart a bunch of times and I'm back up and I'm still going and I'm still smiling here and there. I'm still happy, I'm still content. I feel better now than I did back then, even when I was making more money. Now I'm starting to do it again. If you like this type of content, let me know in the comments. And if you like and subscribe, it helps me get this message out to more people. It's just up from here. That's all I got for today. Have a good morning, have a good afternoon, have a good evening. See you in the next video. I'm out.